Morning and welcome to Moncast on Mondays. Today's experience recovery conversation is with Simon Shibli, and Simon works for the Sports Institute Research Centre. Can't get my words out. Good morning. How are you today, Simon?
Morning, Dave. Very well, thanks.
Good, excellent. Simon, I always ask this question, and it was part of lockdown one because the chief medical officer kept saying to us we were allowed to go and get our exercises, and we did in the main. What have you been up to in sort of lockdown one and lockdown two to stay active?
Well, it's a very good day to ask me, Dave, because ever since 5 days before lockdown, I have been doing at least 20,000 steps a day.
Wow.
So yesterday, we celebrated 250 consecutive days. And I realized early on it wasn't possible to lie in, get out of bed, and then tumble downstairs in front of the laptop. I had to do something to separate home life and work life. So what I do is I get up at 10 to 6, make my wife a cup of coffee, on the road for about between 20 past and half 6, listen to the Today programme on Radio 4 and go out for just over 2 hours.
Wow.
So here we are. It's 10 to 10 on Tuesday. I'll just show you my Fitbit. And you can see we're at 17,600 for the day already. So we'll easily do 20,000 today.
Yeah.
And that's the way which has kept me sane, stopped me putting on a load of weight, I dare say, and also helped me to make that separation between work and home life.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, isn't it? When you have that app or something like you've just shown me, your Fitbit, the motivation that drives in you is just really interesting. It's almost the nag or the nudge in the back of your mind, isn't it?
It is, and very simple things like the Fitbit itself is programmed to vibrate every hour unless you've done 250 steps. And it is a huge sense of achievement between 5 and 6 o'clock if I can clock up 9 consecutive active hours.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is difficult if you've got Zoom meetings going on for hours at a time.
Absolutely.
But I've been able to achieve it more frequently working from home than I ever did when I was in the office.
Right. That's a really interesting positive to come out of COVID, and also something that I think the sport and physical activity sector, the leisure centres and that type of stuff that we work in can start thinking about how they enable people to do that outside of their four walls rather than always thinking about getting people onto the membership track or whatever it happens to be. So I think that's a really interesting start, and congratulations, that's fantastic. 20,000 steps a day, that's really impressive. But what I wanted to talk to you about was the stuff that you do for the Sports Industry Research Centre. So just give us an overview of what your role is there, what the types of things you do.
Well, I head up a team of 18, which may come as a surprise to people. And in our field of sport management, we're probably the largest team of our type within the UK. And it's often said in Europe. And a lot of our work is for the likes of UK Sport, the 4 home country sport councils, the national governing bodies that they support.
Yeah.
We do quite a lot of work evaluating the economic and social impacts of major events, which took a huge hit in March. And we've also, for the last 20 years, provided the analysis contract for the National Benchmarking Service, which also took a very significant hit with the closure of sport facilities, and also the health and safety issue that we were never going to be doing face-to-face interviewing for some time. So in a very short period of time, we lost a lot of our staple diet of work and had to reinvent ourselves to make ourselves relevant to what was going on in the world as it is now, the COVID world. And I'm pleased to say that we're all still here. We have adapted well and have some really interesting new work in. We have some new clients, and we've also made some significant impacts that show research can be used positively to bring about worthwhile change. And in particular, I'm very pleased with the work that we did for the RNA, the Royal and Ancient, the global governing body for golf outside of the USA and Mexico, when we looked at the economic impact of COVID-19 on the golf industry and helped them to negotiate with government an early return to play in, I think it was June or early July.
Right. It's really impressive, that piece around just looking different at your business and being able to, everybody's using the word pivot. I'm not sure it is pivot. I think it's about agility and it's about adaptation and making opportunities out of what seems to be a crisis. But you do a lot of work, and we have lots of conversations around social value. So have you picked up any stuff around social value and the value of sport and maybe what we're missing because of COVID at the moment?
We have, and it's quite remarkable to say that a very significant part of that social value research is now being conducted internationally. We started work on it seriously in 2015 when Sporting Future came out and emphasized the instrumental value of sport. We've done a lot for Sport England, particularly in terms of its strategic outcomes evidence review board. Social value has been built into the social value calculator for sports and leisure centres. And we've also refined a model whereby the social value can be computed. But when you look at the inputs of how much money goes into the system and what comes out, you can then look at the social return on investment. So we've done well with that in the UK, but we're now engaged in 3 international contracts, one in Belgium, one in Peru, and one for the Saudi City of Sport and Culture, NEOM.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge investment over there. Just to help our viewers out, because I guess lots of us will have heard the term social value and social value calculator. What's in the equation? How do you work out what the social value is of sport and physical activity?
Well, the first thing is social value looks at the non-monetary benefits of taking part in sport and physical activity. So, for example, if you take part in regular exercise, there are both physiological and psychological benefits. So you might notice your heart rate comes down, you feel fitter, you're less prone to catching illnesses, less prone to having time off work. You are more likely to be happier, to have high life satisfaction, less likely to be anxious, and more likely to feel that your life is worthwhile. And what our team do is to look at the research which provides the evidence to demonstrate that. And we're constantly engaged in global literature researches looking for what are the proven impacts of sport and physical activity on these social outcomes. And then the tricky bit is putting a value to it. It's, I've said at the start, it's a non-monetary benefit, but because people like numbers, you need to put a monetary benefit on it. And in some respects, it's no different to, say, the sponsorship industry. How long is your logo on screen for? What would that cost to buy? So similarly, what would these benefits cost to buy? How much does it cost, or how much is it worth if we improve the quality of someone's life by a year, or if we prevent them from going to hospital, or we prevent them from having a fall? And it is this huge jigsaw of piecing together evidence to say, with a certain degree of confidence, and being academics, we're quite prudent, we could say the impact of falls preventions is X many thousand per individual.
Yeah.
The cost of that intervention is Y. Yeah. Therefore, your return on investment is 4 to 1, 6 to 1, 10 to 1, whatever.
Yeah, it's a really incredibly powerful conversation to have, and I hear lots of people talking about it, and I'm sure they don't really understand the inputs that you've just described there. And in my view, I think it's something that, from a sports centre, leisure centre point of view, it's something we need to do more with. I think proving our case from that point of view is going to be far more powerful than talking about the number of members and how long we retain people for. But I guess that's a bit future looking. And I suppose I'd rather look into your crystal ball than look into my crystal ball. So given what you know and the work that you're doing, what do you see sport and physical activity in a sort of post-COVID-19 world? What's the things that scare you and what's the things that excite you?
The thing I would start with is a positive statement, which is to say that I think our sector is and will be remarkably resilient. I think for those people for whom taking part in, say, swimming or exercise classes or using the gym, if that's their way of life, when the opportunity presents itself to return, they will take that opportunity up again. Yeah. Excuse me. Where I see concern is at the bottom of the market. I live near a swimming pool, which is one of the best swimming pools in Sheffield for swimming lessons. It's been closed for the duration. And I worry about primary school children not learning to swim, not having that as a life skill, not having that as a gateway to things like canoeing or bodyboarding, the kind of things that you do on holiday. And if that's not addressed, you might have two cohorts of children who can't swim and who won't get the benefit from that activity, which may well indeed save their lives at some point. Yeah. And the other group who I worry about would be those who are peripheral, so slightly reluctant gym users or leisure facility attenders, but who pay the direct debit and have had 9-10 months in which to think about, well, hang on, there's £30 a month going out here, which I'm not really getting any value from. I found different ways of doing things by either walking, going to the parks, buying exercise equipment and doing it at home. Yeah. And I wonder if they will come back. But I think the thing which binds us is probably social interaction. And you can't get that going for a walk on your own, doing weights in your own garage. Yeah. And that's why I think that we are resilient, in that when things settle down, we probably do all need each other, and we get a lot more out of the experience by interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And for that reason, we'll bounce back.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting piece, isn't it? Because the challenge to us, the lessons, you're absolutely right. How do we program? How do we encourage schools to commit time to getting children learning to swim? Absolutely is a challenge. And then that second challenge around that social interaction is around how we, as organisations and operators, really work hard with our teams with those soft skills to encourage that social interaction, to be part of that social interaction. I think it's a really interesting piece of insight there, Simon. Thank you. So we're almost at the end of our time. So if you had 30 seconds, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm worried about staff in leisure centres, particularly those who've been on furlough. And it does concern me that if you've had 9 or 10 months getting 80% of your salary for not doing a great deal, that there may be some degree of resentment when you've got to go back to work full time for, in effect, 20% more. So I hope that we can find a way of keeping staff engaged, motivated, focused on customer service, and maintaining their skills, keeping themselves relevant,